Hello, Nescom Live Sound LSP. Hope you are doing well. This is a review lecture of Microphone Essentials. We're going to be doing some exciting microphone application labs in class and did not want to spend time discussing and lecturing the basics. It may have been a few semesters since you've covered this material, so it's important to cover it again in homework so in class we can be effective. What we'll do in this lecture, nothing really new, but directional response, different polar patterns, microphone types, and crucial concepts about microphone placement. Starting at the basics, polar pattern. This is the direction at which a microphone is most sensitive. Microphones can come in many different polar patterns, and they're often plotted in 2D on a polar response chart, as you can see here. This particular microphone would be what we call omnidirectional, where it's equally sensitive in all directions because the circle is equally sized in all directions around the microphone. I prefer polar part. You don't really see this in microphone documentation, but I prefer thinking about polar patterns in 3D because this gives you a better sense of how the microphone is sensitive in all dimensions around the microphone. Of course, omnidirectional is the most basic type of microphone. We refer to these as pressure microphones. They're typically created by sealing the capsule from behind, so it's only exposed from, it's only open in one direction. Therefore, sound can both come from the front or come from the rear and diffract around the microphone. And the microphone is sensitive in all directions. We don't use the omni mics too much in live sound. We might occasionally use them for choir. We certainly use them for lavalier mics and maybe headset mics and that sort of stuff. But in live sound, omnis typically aren't used very much because they're prone to feedback. Bidirectional microphones are open both in the front and the rear. They're also known as pressure gradient. They measure the difference in pressure from the two sides of the microphone, and they are figure eight or bidirectional. They point in two directions. And we don't, again, in live sound, this is not a typical polar pattern. There's many ribbon microphones, I could even say most ribbon microphones are bidirectional. So that is the case if you're going to be using a ribbon mic in live sound, you may see a figure eight. But typically we avoid them in live sound because you might have a wedge behind it, which will get feedback because of the rear polar pattern. In the live world, cardioid is certainly the preferred and most common microphone polar pattern. You can see it here in 3D, where the microphone is mostly sensitive towards the front and has significant reduced sensitivity in the rear. A decent cardioid can see up to 25 dB of rear rejection. Don't be misled, though. That varies with frequency. The actual device or technology that creates polar patterns varies between microphones, and frequency response of that rear can be all the way from omni to extremely narrow in the back. So, don't just believe the polar pattern drawing chart image that the manufacturer. You really need to test microphones out, and if you're in a really difficult feedback environment, you might want to try different microphones and see which cardioid is the most effective for what you're trying to do.